And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Yet another matchup awaits us now at EUL. It is Stage 2, Playday number 3, and we are on our 4th matchup of this evening. Of course, one of the 2 Playdays that we have on offer this week. Today is Monday, and Thursday will be our 2nd Playday for the week in EUL. That is July the 1st for Playday number 4. Make sure to tune in come that day. Same starting time as usual. Hello, I'm Milos. On the desk, join me. It's Dez and Jess. We're going to have a chat about our upcoming game, Cowana versus G2. And let's go with our G2 roster first. I think it's very clear to say that G2 are looking hot as usual, but a lot of people have many questions about the new roster that they're bringing, about Hungry and Yonka stepping up, and if this success will continue through the stage.
Yeah, look, they had a great first Playday. Anyone who didn't manage to watch it, I'll just give you a little bit of a highlight. 7-1 against VP. A lot of people will say that doesn't mean much with how VP were playing, but it was a really, really good showing given what VP have proven today on that exact map. Going into the next Playday, and okay, they lose to Na'Vi, but that doesn't say too much because Na'Vi have been dominating in their own right over the past stage or so. So I think that this is the kind of opponent that will really give them a little bit of a test because Cowana can be an unknown quantity. Hungry and Yonka joining the stack, taking away the Finns position, means that this is pretty well a brand new roster outside of maybe you want to consider Virtue, one of sort of the OGs of last year. And as a result, they have shaken things up considerably, especially when it comes to compositions of operators. Hungry has been playing all of the unwanted operators that the team doesn't necessarily want to play. And of course, we have Yonka. And, you know, changing of the Zofia roles, etc., moving things around, it takes time to get used to, but they've still pulled out wins as well. Definitely so. And we see if they can replicate another victory today against Cowana, who a lot of people are taunting as, you know what, this team coming out of Challenger League, they're doing really, really well. And who better to talk about Cowana in this case is a resident UK personality here with us, Mr. Achu.
It's for her to stand in and repeat the words UK massive for 60 seconds, right? Not quite. For Cowana, it was a rough start, being completely honest with you. Their game on Consulate, for example, not so pretty. That was against Vitality, didn't have perimeter room coverage, for example. Attacks were scrappy is the best way I can summarize it, but they too stepped up against Virtus Pro in week 2, so G2 played them in week 1, Cowana in week 2, and 7-1 them. That's almost the same scoreline as G2. Oh wait, it's exactly the same, and it played out in a very similar way. On the defensive side, they looked absolutely phenomenal. Only one attacking round going to Virtus Pro, and the 2 attacks that they had were absolutely phenomenal. Lightning quick, they hit hard, they looked incredibly structured and capable. And I worry that after last week's G2 game against Na'Vi, where their attacks looked a little bit ropey on Villa, that for Cowana today, they'll come into this feeling incredibly confident and be the ones able to walk away with the win.
All right, quite interested then to see where Cowana really rates themselves today. It is a big telltale game for both of these teams. You know, Cowana had a misstep maybe against Vitality in the beginning. We were unsure of Vitality. It's still the first 3 or 4 Playdays are always people trying to prove themselves and really set themselves up for the rest of the stage. So I'm curious, which map will we be playing on between these 2 European squads? We're going to go with Cowana, who ban out Clubhouse and take us to Café Dostoyevsky, our final map. You'll see a 2nd cafe for today. Always cool to kind of compare how strategies go between different teams and how certain Clyde Electro claws are placed, because there's some sneaky ones on Cafe. And there it is, Cowana on the attacking side for the start, because G2 picked defense.
Yeah, Cowana won this map 7-1 in stage 1 against Empire. Far from an uncomfortable map for them against Empire. I guess you can take that with a pinch of salt if you really want to, whereas G2 have played it a few times at SI.
Yeah, no, I was going to put that out there and say the only team that they lost against was, I believe, Parabellum, which was a bit of an upset at the time because people expected G2 to do quite well. I don't really want to reference their SI sort of results because I don't think it really speaks volumes of how they
Cyclops
perform.
and Cloud9.
It doesn't speak full volumes of what G2 is capable of, and also they have 2 brand new players, and I hate referencing sort of brand new teams because that's essentially what it is. It's not like we've swapped 1 player here. We've taken 2 whole players, 2 very experienced players out of the lineup. We've put 2 players in, 1 a rookie, 1 a very experienced player. So it technically makes it a brand new lineup. I don't want to give too much away to the audience. That would be false if I was to say it.
All right, let's see how our head-to-head shapes up. We still have a bit of time before we head into the game. Players joining up on the lobby, and we've got Sloth and Yonka for this one on the comparison. Mr. Achu?
both in similar roles, but the big one for me, the storyline that I wanted to bring out, isn't so much about the stats. I'm sure Jess would love to speak about that a little bit too. For me, it was the week 2 performance of both of them. Week 1, Yonka didn't have to go absolutely massive. He was happy sitting in the background, letting his team do the work. Sloth has really struggled in the EUL since they qualified. I think he came into it and everyone was really excited to see what he could do. Didn't ever really step up, and then last week he went 10-4 in the first big game that we've seen him have. For me, for both of them, it's about can they deliver now? They've both shown what they can do, but can it be consistent?
Zofia players, we had to, compare and contrast here. And unfortunately for Yonka, in the opening, in the entries, you can see he has none. He is negative. He is down deep in what a Zofia player probably should not be. So I wanted to compare him there. And just to say, Sloth, not too bad. Okay, maybe shaky. Yonka, he's actually 3rd highest rated player on G2 at the moment, which isn't bad, but he's actually not doing his job. He's doing other people's jobs. So I'd like to see a little bit more conformity there.
All right, we'll try to see how G2 really shapes up and what sort of, I guess, positions they're going to give their different players, different roles. We still are exploring that, as they seem to be as well. We talked to them a couple play days ago, and it was, well, Hungry is kind of... He's taken up whatever we're not
the dirty work
basically right now. So until they're really fitting in, we know how Hungry can be such an effective player. You give him whatever, he can do the work. So Jess, Des, thank you so very much for your intel on this one. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're ready. We're going to go to Cafe Dostoyevsky again to Moscow for it. And this time it's Cowana versus G2. How does this compare to our previous match between Rogue and BDS? Hopefully they'll be a bit less one-sided. That's on to our casters though to tell us. So Hap M, all yours.
Thank you very much. We're over here now, over in a completely different part of the room where the shouting happens. We're going back to Cafe. Dostoyevsky is the place, and I think now we've got medics on the Observer. I feel a little bit sad for based on results that happened earlier on in the night. I won't say too much, but he said, if my observing seems sad, then don't worry about it. I don't know how observing could seem sad.
If he is going, like... Normally you say like head is low if someone keep your head high if you're good. Head
So
low. So if he's like staying very low on the ground, the observing is
medics needs
sad.
all the love right now. And that's not our
Croatia as well.
We'll leave that to chat. Okay. Cowana versus G2 on a map that, as they pointed out, is a good map for Cowana. G2 can have their moments here, but it's one of those sort of snowball potential places. If a team that is aggressive can get a bit of sort of ground, they'll tend to structure things well together. We've seen Cowana be on both ends of this. We've seen them be that team that gets that early ingress and that early bout of pressure. But then we've also seen them be the team that, as soon as they start to lose, it suddenly turns into a 1-7 or a 2-7 against them.
Yeah, and it's not really something you would like to see here. As just said on the desk, let's hope it's going to be a bit more of a two-sided affair. One where both get to put their rounds on the board. And as Valkyrie is being banned off on Cafe, it's up to G2 now to decide who the last one will be that he's not going to be seeing the, play space for now. And it is looking to be Mira? Nah, not really. Clash, all right.
She's gone.
She's gone.
I get the ban. Yeah, there's an Arkic.
So does an Arkic.
Well, an Arkic, he's famous for, he doesn't shoot much. He doesn't hit much. No, okay, that's joking about an Arkic. There's a lot of memes about him on Twitter. It's fair. It removes out the limitations that you can do. You think of the clash positions, you think of traditional shield positions on this map, which is Pixel, which is that fall down the middle onto Freezer, which is the sort of, if you want to play down the back on the VIP side on the ground floor as well, away from Garage, that can be a problem place for a clash too. And removing that and sort of really severely limiting that if it's something that you don't want to have to deal with and contend with, because you know you're already burning utility that way, to have something that you need to burn utility against that's irritatingly mobile as well, let's just not play that game.
No, you often need to find separate angles, try and work together, use some of that utility, as you said, as in the concussions or maybe some explosions. Sometimes a Kali would also help, but doesn't really fit in a composition, especially not on this site, so you need to find different ways to deal with it. Capital also not on the board to try and displace. So it's a good choice. Good choice to indeed go for that ban. You feel a lot more flexible in your attack setup as soon as you will have to start dealing with it.
Now, I love the castle extension here. We've got what can be a very creative structural set up defenders now. Obviously, with the Iruni in the castle, you've got those limitations onto those window approaches, onto the potential shepherding of the door, as we've seen set up around Zulu Corridor. You've got the mirror, which just extends so much here. You can play very aggressive mirror holds. Usually, to be fair, if you're seeing this hold on the top floor, it's generally built around one of two things. It's a shield hold or it's a mirror hold if she's on the board. You can see the castle here too to limit the extensions. You don't see it so often as the extensions beneath, but this is the most standard setup here of the mirror, is that backline, that wall there. But they're going really tall with it. They're dedicating quite a lot across the two floors. They want to make sure that they can keep this entirely aggressive, which is wise against Cowana. You don't want to give Cowana just a target to aim for.
No.
You have to make them uncomfortable, because that's when you can punish them best.
You have to make them work. You have to make sure that they need to be all over the map, and well, that's what they attempt on doing. But for now, they don't really seem to bite as Citizen, not really being chased as of yet. Now will be pushing up towards the pillars. Of course, has the opportunity to play with that Nitro, as they're trying to get the RC Retiros in, but Newcomers will be stopping that for now. And of course, the Castle playing right underneath the skylight, trying to take out the drones as they start flooding in as well. Well, Citizen just missed a good shot there on a good angle.
Popped over the top and threw themselves into the waiting maw of Virtue, who's able to strike one, with Hungry doubling it up two and making sure that he can put some punishment down. Cowana and Grizzly both gone, two huge players that have been pretty consistent. I know it was a conversation before about Sloth's role in the team and how he hasn't quite been able to have the impact this season or in the Tier 1 as he did in Tier 2, but Grizzly and Cowana are two players that have been on their day so exceptional. They were the force that really made Cowana really something to reckon with in the first split. They're gone quite early, and now they're still trying to find a little bit of structure down beneath. Creeps past the camera. Won't give the game away that they're all the way down there, and as they steadily try and take control of the top of red, Grizzly, okay, that's just a quick reconnect and hopefully back in time before, but how are they going to now start their push against this mirror and the back of the white stairs?
This was already dead, so not really an impact onto the Cowana round, except for one less person watching these drones and Arctic now. We'll be finding out about the mirror window that's all the way on the back side here. And we'll probably receive some support from the member inside the bathroom. Takes care of that one Xcaris that was actually located on the mirror. And Citizen surely should hear Kendrew moving up these stairs now, trying to find an angle onto him as he is slowly creeping past. But that goes both ways. The grenade's being tossed out and he gets caught off guard. That's the kill for Citizen. That's a 2-on-5. And then Arctic now knows that there will be pressure on these white stairs. Flashes himself as he quickly tries to, well, get a pre-fire done, and as there is still that Iruni laser gate, a lot of the utility used to try and create the opening all the way from piano to cigar.
Well, Hungry swung the corner, got one more. G2, we said they're not going to give anything to make them uncomfortable, and that is entirely how the round plays out. They seemingly had the handle on every part of it. We might find ourselves in a bit of a timeout now as we come back round, but if there was a sort of way to start this off, I've said you've got to be quite high energy, you've got to be quite aggressive.
Yeah.
You can't really get more high energy and aggressive.
No, this is good, right? You managed to get your kills. The floors runs. Okay, so I'm not really sure what the floor is trying to do there on the balcony. Dropped new hatch, went a bit wide rather than stay in cover. Got himself picked up there. Maybe they had information on a drone, AFK, or like checking cams behind the desk. Thought it might have been a free kill. Instead, he found gunfire, and the gunfire found him. Killed him, and as a result, you know, you snowball from there. Then you have that man advantage, and they try and bring it back desperately, but didn't really win the way they wanted. Also, throwing that grenade, Citizen's like, well, that means you don't have your gun up. Guess I can peek you. It doesn't really help either.
It's always that risk. They instantly tried to follow it up. They expected, I guess, the pull and the peel back to go up white instead of down. They were saying, well, they've still got pixel control. They've still got, obviously, lumber. They'll expect that to be safer. But that's not really how, I mean, especially Citizen plays. If he's got an opportunity to take a kill, the game sense of that man is off the charts. We're back in. Flores is back on the board. If you missed it at the start, Jess did an amazing content piece about the breakdown of that operator, so go back and watch that. I think that will be coming up as its own little segment as well. And now it's Grizzly, I guess, to try and prove Jess's point in certain aspects.
Say, hey, this is how Flores indeed comes in handy.
Yeah.
How you can displace people, gain information, or create soft destruction to get utility. I think it's one of the most flexible operators that has been added to the lineup. And to an extent where it's not broken, but it is almost too good not to use. I think that's a good way to describe it. Because it's not stupidly broken like, for example, a Lion together with a Dokkaebi and a Jekko would be back in the day.
I've sort of taken that out of my memory.
Totally understandable, but it is also a very good operator.
Thought it was flooding
very
back.
flexible.
Yeah, and that's, I think, that flexibility that's still being explored as well. Like, we've seen a few different teams utilize him in a few different ways. It's a growing presence, as any new operator can be, but it's one where it has a sort of diverse application. You're able to expand how you want to make your approaches based on what he can offer in your approaches, whether you need to try and clear yourself some routes through soft, whether you want to try and get a little bit of width to your drone game, which is the rarest case, or whether you can dig in and try and take these close bits of damage against things such as shields, or obviously ADSs, or any corners and pockets of intel that aren't otherwise buffered by the mute, which Yonka, to be fair, is bringing, so it doesn't mean that those routes are as easy to get through. Talking of, we said it before, sometimes Cowana, if they see a target, they will aim directly for it and try and make that hammer hit it as sharp as possible. They're already trying to put that pressure here on Fireplace and just above it.
Quickly checking, quickly holding. There's some patience coming out from Cowana. Whilst they're sneaking up, another E1D will pop, and that surely is ground for Kenru to try and sneak in. We'll find the Melusi right here, but able to quite land the kill. Flashbang will be quite effective. Citizen is completely blinded, has no clue where this sledge is going to be coming from. Misses the shots, however, and Virtue all the way from pillars will be providing some cover. Citizen will live for now, and Sloth quickly from the hatch trying to go for the refrag, but as long as he stays hidden, surely he will not be able to find him. This, as a result, is now the ping will be coming through, has him isolated, but needs to go for that kill and throws a flashbang. Somehow will get the hipfire headshot with the V308, and with that, make sure that they at least get a kill going their way.
Well, they found a way in, and that's been a big problem, but he's been able to double down as the threading of the defense of G2 so far had been very, very good. They'd made sure they had the positions to kind of cover and swing around, and now we've started to see them not fall apart, but have slight parts pulled away from them. Sloth has dug himself in, trying to just get the drop here onto 90 and take care of some of it, but it's an Arctic that actually opens up the next avenue of approach. On the top floor, Yonka goes down. That gives them the ability to put pressure here on Kayak on the back of the white stairs. They're looking again still with this Fireplace control I talked about before. They're looking to try and get the swing in behind the chassis as well, because it gives you a bit of cover, but you still need to try and get rid of that Wamai. You need to cause some pressure for him, and that's where it's going to come from the top, but look, 20 seconds. So whatever the three of them do, they've got to try and do it quickly now. A quick pick-up and rotation, potentially towards the doors of the library itself, as they're trying to open up the angles to get the cover from below. They're going to try and force their way through, but Hungry with the double on the C4 closes it down. Kayak with the cover, and they are blown through the wall.
Blown into pieces, indeed. I was already worried at the moment they started to go for the rotation down towards the reading room, because they had so much control on the dining. They just needed to push one down from the from the white stairs, get the kill on the man that was playing close to the wall. Instead, they decided to go for a rotation. 20 seconds left. Okay, you can make that work. They went for some verticals with the Flores. It is a slow method of doing so. I think that is the one downside compared to a sledge, where you can just hammer it open and it's there. And then the Nitrocell tossed on the door frame. They weren't quick enough on shooting it. Double kill picked up. Diffuser dropped dead on the ground. And you go from there. This is just a timer that runs out. Nothing you can do.
And that's that sort of extended play, that extended defense. It gives you so much more that you have to get through. And as I said, the threading of G2 is very well put together. They thought they had that first inroad, but then the swing came from pillars that was able to like back up and give some devastation towards that back line. And it came down to a hot drop right from the hatch above to see if they could get out. Obviously, Citizen, who is... It's never easy against Citizen in a 1 versus 1.
No.
Oftentimes, it's not easy against Citizen in a 2 versus 1. And then he's got the support of players like Virtue on the one side. They obviously had Kayak still on the white stairs. It was Cowana struggling to find that first place to put that bit of damage to then start pulling the thread. And, well, it left them with very little amount of time. There was still those 2 players left in the back line, and it's never truly over, unfortunately.
No, it's never truly over, indeed. And you saw Sloth, he almost brought it back, right? You get these 2 kills, suddenly you have a complete map, side of the map in your control, and you try and push on from there. Just the time was a big issue right there. Not enough seconds on that clock to make sure the rotation would be working, not enough seconds on the clock to make sure the utility was taken care of. And as a result, you find yourself in well, the nitro cell in that doorway. And that is something you need to make sure it doesn't happen again because, well, let's say it. G2 started off strong. It was a good mid-round coming in from Cowana, just due to the mid-round taking a little bit too long. Nothing left for the end game.
That's tricky. That's a tricky position, and as we find ourselves now heading into Kitchen, which is a site that, out of all of them, is often one of the most locked down, one of the most secluded in terms of a lot of teams' defense, and I suppose we've always seen a bit of an extension anyway. Hey, is this Kaid Claw going to be outside? They were so excited about this, and it's worth mentioning, and it's worth sort of pointing out. So there's a Kaid Claw that you can put on, and I'm curious to see if this gets watched, because Ante was like, oh, I saw this at SI, but the casters didn't notice. I'm not going to name which casters didn't notice, but he was like spiraling around it apparently. His words, and they didn't see it. So you can put a Kaid Claw outside of the freezer hatch, outside the building, and it catches the freezer hatch.
Yeah, that is...
right there, right where he's demonstrating. So you aim for the underneath that white window, you put a claw there, it hits the hatch.
It does hit the hatch, indeed, and it is difficult to find unless you know what you're looking for. That is basically it, right?
You don't expect it.
You don't expect
we've ruined it. Because now we've seen teams run it on stream and we've commented on it. We've ruined it.
Yeah, so
Sloth.
everybody's going to be checking that now, and like Sloth, who almost got spawn peeked. Don't know if that is through the door or not. Must have been almost.
Well, there's a punch hole now, and they're looking to see if they can, I guess, build behind it. There is the pops of the E1D. They're trying to punish the slightly looser players of G2. They have a little bit of an extension, but as I said, it's not common generally for teams to set themselves up with so much utility on the top floors. They'll play a body up there, maybe two, and sort of pull them down as time goes. You can rotate down pretty fast if you sort of hit the hop of their new Baux. Hungry, talking of hopping, was... For a second there, it looked like he was eyeing a hop out, but he might have just been trying to dismantle himself from the table. He's trying to find something, but he can't quite make it work. Everybody else is otherwise in a safe position, and you can see Cowana there being a lot more sort of slow and steady here on the top. They know that this is the one where they can sort of force shepherd people down, but the limitations is still going to be that time at the bottom. Citizen is the first fight, but Cowana steps in. They follow up with the E1D to make sure that there's not a follow-up from G2, and they're going to try and start popping open without being C4'd themselves.
So it was an important kill if you managed to get Citizen first, and I know it's not really a good thing to always nail down things into one singular person, but the amount of times that Citizen managed to drop, well, 20 kills or above is... You cannot count it on one hand, or two hands for that matter. So it is a really good thing to shut him down early on in the match and make sure he doesn't really have that big impact that he sometimes does. Definitely for this round succeeded. And as Cowana tries to continue using the RCE, of course, for a little bit of information gathering and util denial by taking down a shield and an ADS that no one was actually playing behind. It's of course for Hungry that was potentially going to be able to fall back right behind it. Now no longer has that opportunity to.
Yeah, it puts Hungry in a slightly riskier position, but he was already playing it quite risky, so I think he's just going to try and take this as the firefights. They come around the corner. Grizzly is the first step towards. Hungry hides behind the Christmas tree and gives himself a little bit of space. You can see they're still holding the hold from the other side, and as we pass the 30-second mark, they know that the pressure has to start coming down here, and it's going to spill towards this body behind the bar. Yonka is in this position where he's able to spray through the little punch holes, takes a great take against Sloth. In the meantime, Cowana gets the double. They've dropped into sight, and Anarchic's trying to stick the plant. Hungry needs to try and win this fight on the backside. It's the C4 that goes round, doesn't quite catch them, and with everybody else falling, Hungry, we thought he was going to be the tip of the spear, but he ends up being the last thing held. Cowana find their first round.
They find their round indeed on the attack, can now continue for the next three. However, G2 allowed to go back to the sites they have previously been at. Luckily, for the second one, it almost went well. Reading room fireplace, that is. Let's see if Bar Cocktail can go a little bit better. It's just small things. You can now basically draw and trace it back all the way to the floors, dropping the new hatch, being caught off in the gunfight with the man behind the bar, behind the table rather. If that doesn't happen, if that does go your way, however, that would have been an entry kill. And you could have snowballed yourself from there. But Bar Cocktail, as I said, the castle is being site swapped out. We're going to go to the Echo. as a 6 pick.
Echo now, with what he can offer these teams, is always big, but in the hands of G2, I think it's one of the more kind of pop-off operators of recent memory, in terms of they're a team that seems to exemplify creative usage of Echo. And I know that's one of those things where you say, well, how creative can you be? When he became visible, when those drones became visible, we sort of saw a little bit of an Echo 2.0 and the vaguest sense of the word, where some teams started using them as very aggressive drones to get them. But the way that I'd love to see G2 play them and the positionings of them seem to, if anything, and I'm not, you know, it's always in their sort of technical bit to bring it, surprised people more than often.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes they are being used in these positions where you would assume they're easily spotted out, just to try and stun people on the way in and maybe use them as entry drones. That's also something we have seen quite often lately, rather than really hiding them into the last very seconds. And of course, it sometimes results into, well, losing it. Citizen takes down Anarchic. There's the diffuser dropped down outside. Everybody being on the roof right now, but Gorgona, he will be tossed with picking that one up and bringing it up to the roof, making sure they're ready for the execute. But this is again an opening you cannot really afford as Cowana on this top floor site. Of course, it is not going to be the end of the world there, as the RC Retiro was spun around a little bit on the skylight, hoping to make it in far enough to finally take care of that utility. Doesn't succeed now, and Kenru runs stuck in between another laser gate. Needs a bit of utility to be tossed in there, and I believe that will be up to Grizzly on the roof, indeed, there to use that flashbang.
Kendru's going to try and lead the charge around the corner before that gets popped back open. There it is, all falls on Pixel Corner. We've said those drones could be a great way to take through them, but now, without the hard destruction, they're going to have to just try and physically force their way through these uncomfortable situations that are already in place. You have some width that you can be offered, but with this backline here all the way across that mirror window in a position where you can just swing on any of those otherwise comfortable approaches, you assume there's a backline that's playing on Freezer and towards Lumber 2. It's this rotation, it's this big pick-up sticks. We cannot quite force our way across. We have to have something bite from the back and just draw some of this attention away, because otherwise it is entirely a firing line they're about to funnel through.
Definitely so. But it's setting up nonetheless. There is stuns being tossed in now. They'll be aware of the fact that one is indeed behind a mirror window. A Nitrocell will be tossed in right, and an Evo gets Grizzly as he actually drops down at the very second. Will be followed up with a grenade kill from Kenrido. It's just a DB&O for now, and well, they will have to confirm that kill. Will successfully do so, and Virtue is still outside. It's very dangerous for him to try and come back, but as Jonker secures the site yet once again, it is only up to Gorgona and Sloth to make sure that this stick or this execute will hold. As Gorgona's the last one left, there's little chance for him to actually successfully do so, but he starts it off well.
He's able to drop one, sprays through, but Jonker swings back and gets that response that they sort of needed. The play on the Echo at the end was ready to push against their plant. They expected the objective, which I've said at the very beginning, this is something that Cowana often drives themselves towards, so having that sort of peace of mind, that cover on the back line, it was tricky losing your hard destruction that early. It was tricky, especially on that top floor, where your options are pretty limited. It's not that there's other ways into the site, there's always doors, but you think of how uncomfortable they are to swing on. You think of the amount of width you can get on them, which is very minimal for most of them. There's only really the cigar box that you can get some width to and some radius, but that offers you such a narrow sightline because it's then instantly cut by the freezer walls, it's cut by the pillars themselves. It's not easy. And they tried to make the best of a bad situation, but unfortunately G2 just had that one step ahead.
They definitely had to step ahead. Let's see if they can continue it here. The site where Cowana got quite close, however, just weren't able to close it out in the end due to that late rotation, due to the lack of time, and due to, as I said one final time, the Nitrocell to be tossed into the door frame and detonated right before any of the Cowana members could flick to make sure it wouldn't. And now, G2, well aware of the approach that Cowana took the last time around, might be able to have it again. That Nitrocell just tossed in and exploded right as Grizzly jumps in from the skyline. Perfectly timed there. Able to pick up that kill, very important kill. But yeah, G2, again defending here. Let's see if they can change it up a little bit, make sure that Sloth is not allowed to pick up a double kill like that again.
The mirror has been this constant extension, and I think it's something that's used so well on this map. I think you can really allow yourself just that extra space. It's one of those sort of, you know, operators where, again, if I'm going to highlight ones that in the right hands can be monumental, you're looking at the two styles that people bring to Cafe, whether you lock down or whether you play these open threaded defenses. Look at that, though. They're able to get two off the rip, but it's Grizzly that's able to dig back and get two of his own. And Arkic's trying to cover the rotation. Virtue's up above being flashed out, but it's Yonka with the close swing to get an Arkic and get that diffuser cold on the floor, with Grizzly not much further behind. Suddenly Gorgona is the only one left standing in a 3 versus 1. They've got this door watched. Cowana went for something as a bit of a deep dive, and it was a brave hold with an ump on the far side, but at least you have a lot of time here, Gorgona, because unfortunately there's not much else that can really play to you right now.
Don't think Citizen heard the entry from VIP. Now we'll spot him, however. A lot of damage done, but Gorgona manages to get the kill nonetheless. So that's the Nitro being tossed over. Hungry gets the kill. I already thought I saw him throw something, but landed right behind him. Outside of the view of the spectator cam, and with that, an explosive manner to end the round, and G2 extending their lead so far, 1-4. But we're going to say it, there's always two sides to a game of Siege. And that means that it might not be over yet, even if G2 is going to be able to get the 1-5 here.
I think one of the things that we're sort of looking at right now is Cowana are trying a few different things. They're trying a few different approaches. They've obviously just gone for a rush, which wasn't successful. They've gone for these quick, fast punches towards the site, which, to be fair, I guess it's a little bit mixed. The best so far was pushing this site, and then it was the only one that they were able to take before. But the way G2's holding this with this spread around, they're able to sort of punish that Cowana playstyle of trying to find a weakness on the fly, and if it's the site itself, they'll go for the site itself. Here, they're still sort of umming and ahhing. You get the impression that they are. They're trying to piece together just how they can find a way in and dig their nails, and I'm sure they'll sort of go back over this and look into it. There's these things that are so much tougher to connect when you're in the game versus our position up here watching above, but you've got to give credit to G2's defense because they're keeping Cowana guessing. They're keeping Cowana sort of in the dark.
Definitely so. It's a strong thing to do, just to make sure that they don't have to, or don't, you know, they cannot run the same thing twice, basically, because you keep on changing up whatever you're doing. And that is something that, of course, is partly adaptation, but also partly, as you said, keeping them in the dark, making sure you vary your strategies, vary your setup, so no 2 rounds are the same in terms of executes. In terms of gunfights taking place in these places. And, well, sometimes a jump out is warranted for it. Citizen, of course, did that in the, I believe it was previous to the round before that even, yeah. It was round before that was, he's thinking about doing it again. Open up the window, he's ready for someone to rappel up on that balcony as Yonka taking a little bit of damage here, but will survive with his life for now.
Yeah, the first push comes towards Yonka, who's just sort of stuck on the back of VIP. They are looking to try and cut out this body and go for a slightly different angle of approach. They sort of had that as the secondary point of ingress before on the success, but otherwise the rest of the bodies have headed up to the top. They're going to see if they can catch this loose Virtue, who's otherwise in a pretty tricky situation. A Pulse isn't too far off with a C4 in pocket. They have 2 other C4s as well. It's a bit of a hold that you can kind of pull them apart without having to get too close. It's dangerous on an approach, and that's the cost that might start to come through here.
Now Virtue jumped down, but Citizen is still on top of these white stairs. Also fall back just a little bit as he is being pushed and being droned as well. Sloth is leading the charge together with Gorgona. Of course, have 1E, 1D left as a group to make sure they can use that for example, a final push, or when they try and take care of 1 or 2 roamers, as the RCEs are being used here for rotation purposes. Will be Cowana that have done the clearing. They have cleared 3rd floor and 2nd floor and now can start pushing up towards the 1st. And with that, of course, there's a lot of preparation and opening up these angles with the Caber, of course.
Still dangerous. Still 3C4s in pocket. Still the pulse is well, although actually no, one of them has potentially been pre-placed. I don't know if that's been blown yet from Hungary. I don't think I remember hearing it pop off. And they're just waiting for the call, waiting for the intel to go for it. They know Cowana can do these quick executes that they've put before. They've still got these E1Ds that are screaming ahead of them, but Cowana, they're a good team at trying new things. They're going for a different adaptation here, even though this was the round that they won. They know that they still need to not take anything for granted. They're going to try a fight on Bakery. This time round is potentially their first throw through, but it's Hungry that pops up. He's having a pretty phenomenal game, and well, it hasn't stopped yet. There's the diffuser cold. There is an Arctic on the floor, unfortunately, before any of these walls can really get popped open. It's Gorgona and Grizzly, that duo, that dream team that I've said have been the reason that Cowana have been such a good force. They've only got a handful of seconds. Kendry's found his way inside and found his way through Virtue as well for a bit of this cover. They're spraying from above as Citizen retakes the mantle. The Echo Drone, that is a worrying sight for anybody, but it's Citizen that gets it either way, 5-1.
Of course, still had 2 of the stuns left into the Yokai drone as well. There was almost no opportunity that they wouldn't be able to get that one on the back of the utility that was still placed down. And now as we're heading into a timeout, most likely called by Cowana, as you can see on the top right now, as the blue bar starts to go that way, to which you am. To which you, I did it the wrong way around because we're mirrored on the big screen.
It's always tough to tell.
It's always tough to tell.
The amount of times, like, we should know this by now because we're always sat in the same places, in the same studio, and
but we don't.
Still never do it correctly.
Yeah, I blame the cookie, but
Are you still going on about it? That still hasn't
No.
Okay.
It's okay. Either way, G2 currently leading 1-5. It's a pretty big lead on a map that, well, when it was just released, I think we had like 80% defense side, which quickly, of course, went down towards a more balanced side of things. But it's still a good lead here for G2, one that they can comfortably close if their attacks are going to be on point. And they could be making a statement in this next round where we are potentially on that top floor, which you mentioned is so limited. If they manage to pick up the first round straight away, that's first of all the point secured. Second of all, suddenly, what can Cowana do? Because there's 5 more rounds where they cannot afford a single mistake, and the most holdable site or the most defensible site supposedly fell straight away.
Yeah, I think it's also this concern. As I said at the beginning, these are 2 teams that when they start to get a bit of momentum, they can really fight in. Yeah. I would say G2 over Cowana have that ability where a game goes on, the longer they still have a little bit more. They've been generally in more of these OT situations. They've been generally able to push back against these big sort of successive leads. Sometimes Cowana, they get a little bit stuck in their mindset. They get a little bit stuck in this negative. They haven't really been able to dig themselves into this one too much compared to usual. They're a team that, you know, if not just the fact that it pushes them to 6-1 if they don't get the opener, but I think if they don't get the opening 2, I think at least as just something to tie 2 rounds together, they're in just this sort of dire straits mentality. And it's tough because it's still obviously generally a very young team towards Tier 1. They're the newest additions. It's obviously they've got Kendry, who came in as this sort of big, historied voice to offer some balance, to offer some of the support. But at the end of the day, when things don't quite connect, when that energy goes, when that sort of you find yourself a little bit down in the mental, it can really affect you against a team that is so seemingly ice cool even when everything's going away.
And they need to make sure the momentum shifts in their way now, and I'm not even sure if 2 rounds will be enough. 3 will get the job done better because suddenly you are on 4-5, which of course gives you the opportunity of equalizing it. Sometimes that gives a little bit extra to these teams on the back foot, especially if it's coming from that far back, as they currently are. And that's a rotation closed off. Wanted to go for the rotation, or angle, line of sight. Decided not to in the end. Not quite sure what the reasoning behind it is. Maybe they needed a shield to play that and they don't have that. No, so there could be a reason for it, because often that part is being left open. Of course, if you have that shield to play, not there now. So might show why they close it off in the end. Of course, nothing really lost much. You still have that cyborg arm from Sloth that basically has unlimited charges on opening up these rotations. The big thing is, and the big thing was for G2, was their mirror setups, the inability of dealing with that on the side of Cowana.
Yeah.
And as Kayak spots out Sloth wanting to go for a bit of a peek, that is going to be your entry. Sloth now dead. And that means that they have the man advantage here on G2. And if they now also manage to deal with these mirror windows, this could very quickly go their way.
Now, and I think when you're looking towards the mirror windows as well, not only do you have the cover, but you also have the Twitch drones, which isn't... It's obviously, it's as far as we look at it, pen and paper, Twitch drones versus mirror window. They're literally built to destroy them.
Yeah.
But you don't see it too often as the drive directly against mirror windows, in EU especially. So when they actually do sort of come round, it's a little bit of a lack of focus. It's, there it is, able to sort of drive themselves close enough. You're not massively expecting to see that as the push when the rest of it is this heavy utility burn. Kendrew finds himself under fire here, right under the new Bauk. They're looking to see if they can offer something back against this approach, but there's nowhere Kenny can go right now.
Dig deep.
That's it, dig deep, try and offer something else. He's going to buy, if anything, time at this moment, but with the canisters and the smokes popping, it's the C4 of Cowana. He makes a quick trip round to the window, and Virtue does finally get the kill, but it's the cost of that body that was on the backside of Christmas.
And with that, you lose a little bit of pressure, but at least you still keep the man count. You force Kendra out of that tough spot and make sure that he will be, well, dead now. And with this, you took care of the mirror window already. That's directly challenging the site. You don't really need to challenge Piano. We've seen that from BDS before when they were playing on this map, but you need to make sure that the player is not allowed to do what he's currently trying to do, which is rotate through. Citizen gets caught by a jump out. Grizzly will be able to pick up that kill. Has to go all the way from downstairs. So now they should be aware it's only a 3v2 on site, but they're losing their gunfights now. Anarchic picks up the kill to Virtue, and that leaves us in a 2-on-3 situation.
Going to drops, tries to get the spray, but now it is just a build back onto the site with Hungry dug in and the diffuser now unfortunately away from them. They're trying to get out Gorgona, who's doing everything he can in the bathroom. The spray towards Lumber does not quite connect, and only a handful of seconds left. Mirror is out of there, and that's a bit of a worry because they can now go for this push, this pressure. They're going to see if they can apply it. They're just going to go for the stick because at this point, why not? The post plant comes through, the spray is matched either side, and it's a Cowana round.
Great choice from them to rotate around like that. Make sure you send one through the freezer, one through the actual lumber or planks. Take the gunfight from two different angles at the same time. So didn't want to go for the nitro play from below. Wasn't enough time for it to get it done. And of course, we're just temporarily hiding, waiting for that clock to hit 0. Yes, because it was on 11 seconds at that very time. That is a start here for Cowana. It's a single round that they might need if they hang on to it, because now we're heading into that second round that you said would be so important to get. You need to get 2 in a row to at least start the momentum on your side. 3 would be better. 4, you equalize the scoreline, and 5, suddenly you find yourselves onto match point.
It's not undoable.
It is not undoable. But you have seen crazier comebacks, especially when G2 was involved.
Yeah, G2 have, okay, for all the compliments I've given G2 about being able to dig in these games where they're the ones on the back foot, sometimes the opposite happens to them, and sometimes it happens to them more than often. But I still think all the focus right now is on Cowana trying to get past the toughest opponent, which is themselves, which is that sort of lack of energy. And you know, it's always unfortunate to see because when things don't connect for them, they sometimes seemingly take it a bit harder than other teams do because they're still, I would say, generally new to the Tier 1 because they're new to this situation. It's good that they're pushing the boat out, but being able to fight back, more experience of these situations of being able to fight back, which you hope Kendrew's going to alleviate and offer them as well as the sort of ideas of getting your heads back together. And that's how you grow, and that's how you sort of get that steely mentality to dig in to get the progression here. But, as you said, 5-2, they've been able to at least get their opener. They've got to see if they can get this as well, not just to keep themselves off a potential map point, but to build some sort of semblance of momentum.
I don't know what the lull was for from Citizen. I assume he might have gotten a couple picks with that Twitch drone before it got taken out in the prep phase already. Nitro Cell being prepared though. The pulse is ready to call when it should be raining out, and this Virtue's going up and up and up. Surely now it will follow. They have a double Nitro even. They were really not going to let Virtue live. As a result, they have the entry kill on the side of Cowana. G2 need to find 2 back, and they need to attack that side. But I believe that most of the Romans are already falling back because they have that 1-man advantage. There's also the sledge gone, which is a huge blow towards the verticality that you bring.
2 of the 4 C4s gone. No, 2 of the 3 C4s are gone. They still have pulses, obviously, in pocket, and it gives them, I guess, still that semblance of danger that they can apply to the map. Obviously, Virtue gone. You've lost that soft destruction over the top. If we're going to talk about how important the pick was on the hard destruction, in some regards, this could be as tricky, but also in some not quite, because you have these pockets, as we said, the massive adaptability around Flores and what he can offer here as well, because you can just use those drones to open up some angles, the ones that you need. It's something you can do from a semblance of safety as well. You don't need to be so directly underneath them where there's this risk of the C4 still ominously lurking underneath you.
Angles are being created, the pulse is still spotting. Grizzly getting a good view on the man putting down a breaching charge. However, it does not quite predict where Hungary would be going, and thus created an extra opening for them, allowing them to use it. Still 60 seconds left. It's plenty of time for G2 to make something happen. The RC Retiros are being sent in to deal with any utility, as well, they wanted to go for a bit of a rotate here. Kendrew and Grizzly, I believe, but decided to go against it. Not really the right choice. There was a drone there or anything else that they had to shoot, and thus their position was given away. And as they're now coming down from any different angle, they really need to take care of that one player in VIP. And Hungry on the brown stairs is trying to find himself an angle. This is the displacement we have been talking about. Just need to find the angle. Just need to find that one shot onto Sloth.
Well, the concern is the cover that's being provided here by the Malusi, so they're just going to have to dig down, and they find Sloth. They're going to push on with that advantage before they can slip past, and they catch them just on the turn of the corner. They're going to keep going because they don't have much time, and, well, there's somebody shutting open the door. 10 seconds left. They've got to try and pick that diffuser up and get it on the stick. Hungary's going to hit the freezer hatch so they can be there in time, but the drop down the red stairs gets the corridor, gets the kill, leaves just Hungary, but not for very long. Cowana. They started to react aggressively. We saw them go, obviously opening with the double C4. They then tried to go on the double extension, back up the red stairs to see if they could find anybody. They're still exploring, and that's a good sign.
It is definitely. And now, 3 and 5. They're fighting back. They're trying to find themselves a way back into the matchup. And if they manage to pick up this next round, we would have a full rotation. We would have all 3 rounds. All 3 sites Cowana would like to go to, secured and won. As a result, a very plausible option for them to lock it off as a clean defensive half here against G2. Fireplace Mining will be the next site they opt to go to, and Twitch will be swapped out for an IQ. Of course, similar rules, both deal with utility and try and take care of it by either shooting it with the pistol through sometimes floors or walls, of course with a drone, zapping it as they go. G2 need a single round to make sure they got themselves a point. And if you can see in the top right, if they do manage to win this matchup in regulation, they find themselves 2nd place. Suddenly.
It's been a bit of a topsy-turvy day.
It has been. With an Empire win, a Virtus Pro win, you know, those 2 weren't really expected, so they were up against some of the top contestants as well. Secret and Vitality, who were 1 and 2 at the start of the day. Now they're no longer.
I mean, that's it. These things start to happen. Some days, play days like this really explore. We've obviously got the double week this week as well. There's another play day that comes a little bit later on. So these sort of games where you can put a bit of momentum early on, maybe it wasn't expected, can be an absolute wind song for your performance later. G2, they're going for this pressure that they can apply on the top. There's obviously the castle that is going to limit some of the angles they can put here, but Grizzly is trying to find ones of his own, as Cowana is still opening up from underneath towards the backside of the wall. They're a dangerous team, they're a creative team when they want to explore the space, and as we said before, it was the good signs of them doing just that. G2, I think, need to apply a little bit more caution on some of their approaches here to make sure that they don't get punished, because their defense, to be fair, was pretty exceptionally put together. It's just trying to thread that onto their attacks, where now they know on this tertiary site is their best opportunity.
We are see Retiro not really dislocating Grizzly there, but will be taking care of the visible cover that will be on said table. Make sure that they could shoot through it, and that will explode if you shoot the Mute Jammer. Make sure that you're out in time, otherwise you're going to lose your life. It's a unlucky way to go if that would have been the case. Grizzly struggling to try and find that drone as Hungry's trying to get some information out, hoping to find him still in the same position, but already long gone. Top floor forfeited for the most part. Only the cocktail balcony that is really under control. Actually, rotation into freezer as well.
I was going to say, they just took a very wide rotation. They doubled up. That's very Cowana, is to sort of give a bit of ground and go back round. And look at Grizzly. He's already back where he was, and he's going to go for one more trip. He's making sure that they're still not sure where he is, and that's causing these sort of problems for G2. And I said the G2 defense threading was very good. They were a little bit more stoic in their holds, but this is Covana's style, where they're sort of active everywhere. They'll keep you guessing, and that can make it a little bit tricky at times to shut them off. Yonka gets the opener there with Grizzly instantly finding a rebuttal against Citizen. They lose the IQ, they lose some of the control of potentially an Echo drone that might still be around causing trouble later. It's still a steady presence that they want to try and apply across the top here. And with that C4 popping up, are they hoping to just go fishing, or are they waiting for a bit more of this concerted intel? It's steady, it's Sledge, and it's Sophia making business of the soft floor.
Kendra dropping down all the way into the basement, something we have seen him do before in previous weeks as well. Grizzly picks up the kill onto Yonka, and that means that it is now a man advantage here, but an effective 3-3 on the actual side. But it will be supported by these yokai drones that are still in play from Kendra that will be there to try and stop that plant. And as you said, you missed the IQ. Now it's going to be a little bit more difficult to find him, and Grizzly's in the meantime all the way on the top floor as well, ready to drop and hatch. And with a second left on the clock, Kayak now starts the plant right now. To get this drone in right here, failed to do so, but the kill will be coming through, not even. As the yokai drone gets the final stun, as the Sledge drops right before him.
5-4. 5-4, and this is the moment where the G2 social starts looking in the other folder. The other prepared tweets folder, the one of the slightly sadder days. Okay, it's not over yet, but it's funny to make jokes about people. And the memes that they put together, because they're always so consistent.
Quickly checking. They didn't.
Are you checking that they haven't already posted the meme yet?
No, they haven't posted a thing yet.
There'll be the we're going to the other meme folder now, because they're prepared for like every single
Especially
situation.
now we've said it.
Yeah, now we've said it. Bar cocktail. Hey, we're heading back on. We're on the start of the
I've
rotation.
seen this one before from Cowana. It was successful.
Yeah,
and quite successful.
It was well put together, but I guess my expectation now is we're seeing it when Cowana are on a 5-4, not a 5-1. Now we're seeing it where they've built 3 rounds in a row. I said they needed 2. They've gone 1 further. Now they have the chance to draw it even, go further still. They've been pretty good over the past few rounds in the terms of how they're reacting to the situation. Sure, they're still only technically 1 round away from losing out on the chance of 3 points and 2 rounds away from potentially losing it, but the play that we've seen over the past round is more confident than the play from the round before. It was those big rotations they love to use, which they flirted with when they were on the kitchen hold, and which they didn't do generally at all when they were last up here. So are we going to see more of that now? Are we going to see them really start to stretch and explore and become that team that has otherwise caused so many problems for other teams?
The confidence that allows Grizzly to rotate as much as he did is really dangerous. It's a dangerous thing to have against you as G2, because he basically went to the top floor 4 times in 1 round. 3 of them being under the action phase, 3 of them whilst G2 members were on that top floor, and every single time he dropped down or managed to grab a kill almost of it, putting up some pressure. With that, it is a roamer that is just hard to deal with in that case. No Nomad, for example, to try and deal with it. No Zero to put up some extra information. There's many different ways they could deal with it if it is really that problematic. But for now, G2 sticking to the same lineup, even though some things could have changed. For example, like an IQ could have easily been changed to a 0, for example. But time is an issue. Like the yokai drones in the previous rounds were still up. It's not there now, of course, so don't have to worry about it, but you wouldn't know that as you start the round.
Well, we've seen a change here, obviously, in the guns of Cowana as well, in terms of Sloth is still standing with his. They pulled them into a different position where he's still trying to cause problems and aggression from the other side, as well as Kendrew, who was otherwise playing quite aggressive on the drop of the hatch, waiting by Cigar, but this time he's further back. He's more in the core of the hold itself. They've sort of let Sloth be the troublemaker all around the rest of the boards and hoping that G2 won't quite expect, but we just saw the yellow ping over the top. They know that they need to swing down there, and they're actually hunting underneath too. I think that is Citizen that is looking for the fight underneath as the rest of them go for the push here against this mirror window. They're trying to dig them out and make sure that they still have that at arm's length. Grizzly suffers, still survives, and the cover is going to be able to get all of that, but here comes a drone, and there goes even more damage to Grizzly. He's going to try and hop up and get away from it. He's surviving, but the ground is very thin. There's even more pellets and even more X-Kairos and even more explosions against a wall that still stands, but for how long? Sloth is doing his best to hold off the IQ underneath as well as a separate firefight happens elsewhere. Citizen, he's trying to go for the hunt, but he knows how dangerous this can be. He knows he's been punished in this situation before. They had some drones driving them previously, and as it comes off the ping, Sloth is still dangerous. Even with the yellow ping, even with the drone, Sloth is able to get out of there, and that's an important play now with only 30 seconds left.
Not sure if he was aware of it or if they had information themselves, but the flashbang still raining in. Grizzly is going to finally go down by a grenade. Hungry managed to pick up the kill onto Kendrew, I believe. Virtue will be able to find one as well. We'll find ourselves in a 2-on-3 active situation. It's only 14 seconds left, and all they need to do is get the plan down, but there's still two members in dangerous positions there, and as Hungry and Kayak will be able to pick up the last two kills, it will be G2 that secured themselves a point, and you see a little bit of that stress being relieved from some of these faces, but in the meantime it will also still be pure focus because there is still the fight for these 3 points. You shut them down now right as their momentum was starting to build. You took the point at least away from them, one of them. You have the opportunity to take all three now. Make sure you make this one stick because this one got quite close. A lot of the utility was used onto taking out that single mirror window. But it was being covered by 2-3 different angles, 2-3 different people, and somehow they still made it stick in the end. Miraculously.
The IQ is gone.
Hey.
I think it's fair enough because Citizen found themselves doing a bit of busy work. It's the tough thing with Citizen is there are times when he finds himself doing every bit of work. He's that sort of echelon of player. He's not just fulfilling one role, he has at points fulfilled every single role just within a single round. With the sort of push that he's pulling, and here it's not quite having the same effect. He's not able to connect it as he usually does. So I think going back to a little bit more of that aggression, a little bit more of that aggressive roots. Ash still has utility, still has uses in terms of those pushes and pulls, and they might just use it as more of a direct drive and stop trying to play Covana's game.
It definitely will be. Let's see what they will come up with because it is going to be the exact same site we will go to. Of course, we will see some minor adaptations here and there. For example, the magnet was previously on the staircase. Now it will be below the 3 as a Christmas present. And also going for a bit of a spawn peek onto Christmas Market, but be able to find anyone yet. And some of the caster barricades are easily dealt with some of these X-Kairos. It will be Citizen that is looking to make an impact, looking to become big in this round. Potentially ascend the white stairs as Sloth is looking to jump out of them. It's being watched by Kayak. We've seen him do a little bit of a bait earlier. I'm wondering if they have any piece of information to cover that. Grizzly, however, will get a great kill onto Yonka. Beautiful shot down, and that's the second one. Kendrew with the Nitro. It's definitely adaptations that we see here.
Yeah, they were able to instantly put some damage in. They went back to what was the A-hole before. They've gone back to trying to stick themselves inside. Hungry went to try and pop that back wall. I'm not sure what the second one caught. I think they might have been fired too quickly together. And both hit the Aruni gate there, which is one of those irritating moments. It's a big blow to your utility because if you give them enough time, they'll be able to get that popped open. You could have otherwise cleared yourself a gambit of space, but now when you're playing with such low cost, now when you've only really got some of these pellets left, you're going to have to try and force yourself through from the top of red instead. Kendrew can take the drop here with a shotgun, and that's what he's going to do. Finds himself a new angle, causes G2 to have to go on another little bit of attention paying because now the bottom of those stairs is even more dangerous for them.
Yeah, definitely so. To make sure that they have a bit of a flank drone ready to make sure that Kendrew's not allowed to sneak up like we have seen Grizzly do a couple of times. course, is being done, is being dealt with as we speak. And look at the hold. It's very, very, like, linear. It's one on the pixel, we have one in the freezer, one on planks, and then two inside the cocktail. They form one line together, and this one repel of the Zofia could be very big for it. Managing to pick up one or even two kills could open up a gap that allows them to sneak in and go for a plant, but there is still this angle inside of the piano that allows Gorgona to try and challenge and try and stop any diffuser that would be entering.
Sprays catch the side of Grizzly. They're concerned about the hop out. They have some intel to it, but when you're playing with a two-body disadvantage, you kind of have to direct all of them to the push itself. Citizen hot hops, gets caught. There's a trade out from Kayak, at least finds a double with Sloth on the floor too. But Gorgona is able to stem it 6-5. And Cowana still pull themselves towards that OT.
One more round and we find ourselves in overtime. G2 need to give everything they have left to this next round, where Cowana have two choices to go to. If a Liquid decides they've previously played, it would be kitchen service and, of course, reading fireplace or reading dining. And it's looking like it will be kitchen service that we are seeing to come out on the side of Cowana. And G2, no adaptations to the line. Actually, Dokkaebi coming in on Hungary might be what is the change needed. Of course, will help with their own clear, will help you keep control and keep track of some of these players, and especially helpful when you're about to enter an area where you know someone was there, but you don't really have time to re-drone. Quickly ring the phone call, use the sound to see if he's still there, and then act accordingly.
Wow, we've also had obviously the change. Kendra has picked up the Echo instead of Kaid. They're going to play against what they're hoping is the plant game, what they're hoping is the objective-driven game. They know that G2, when they're looking at that final 20-30 seconds, will try and drive themselves in, as they are a team that is the same, as they are a team that does that too. So instead, they're going to try and buy as much time elsewhere on the map as possible. Give themselves that little bit of space to play with against the opponents, against that final 20 seconds, and see if they can put Kendra in a situation where he's kind of confident with those drones, especially after the IQ was obviously removed in the previous round to the Ash.
Now, if I'm seeing the setup that Cowana is currently setting up, and if I spotted what the mistakes seem to be, as almost Gorgona loses his head right there at the start of the round after a pre-fire from Kayak, I would say that maybe the freezer push is not really what they should be aiming for. Maybe they should be going for a bakery / red take. Maybe that is more successful for them, as that is going to be a jump out from Sloth. I'm sure of it. So that just opens up the window. Make sure that he chooses his life, because they know how important this round is. They cannot afford a silly mistake like that.
Yeah, he went to see if he could get somebody loose. I think he hoped that they were coming up the flat front of a little garage box, but no dice, and that's put a bit of caution. As I said, they're trying to buy some time. The longer that they're able to take out now, the more that they have to deal with when it comes to the push, and with that Echo too, the 6th pick, the bait and the gambit, that could be that destructive end to a round to take us into OT. So far, G2, they've got themselves in, they've started their collapse and their expression over the top 2 floors. They're angling themselves down. They feel confident they've been able to shepherd the Cowana players to that ground floor, but Cowana are a team that sometimes like to get a bit explorative. They'll like to look at staircases and the options to try and cause some chaos and push up them, even when it is this situation. Even when you're sort of staring down the barrel of the gun, they're kind of happy to say, well, what are you going to do about it?
Junka on the new bakery window, small bakery window. Needs to find Anarchic. If they do, then suddenly the full A side opens up, of course, with the exception of Gorgona still in Kojak. But those two players, they could be the key to a potential success round here for G2. And as we're just sneaking around on the top floor, hoping to find someone inside of service, who's unable to find anyone as we speak. And now you do see they indeed do go with the plan. They need to go through service. A phone call is coming out. They just need to take care of the player out there. The RCE comes in, will be forcing them out. Puts Anarchic in a little bit further back down. Onto the, oh, that's a good grenade from Virtue.
Yeah, taken out, dropped, and sent into what is unfortunately just watching from this point onwards. 30 seconds.
Beautiful
and
shot.
Citizen with a fantastic take there against Gorgona. They've got to try and make their drive happen, and as long as that Echo is still on the board, that 6-pick potential is still there to cause chaos. The spray goes towards Kayak. He's able to pull back, and Sloth is the next victim to a G2 collapse that has seemed the best so far. The Execute is crawling and taking over the site itself, so there's that Cowana exploration. Grizzly up the brown stairs goes for it as these drones are going to pop off. Kayak, are they aware that they're going for the stick?
No time for this.
They don't have the time. They miss it out. Grizzly gets the triple, but unfortunately all the shouting about the Echo, and he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. A post plant. One last bout, one last breath of Cowana to try and pull themselves deep and pull themselves into OT. G2 have spaced themselves slightly further apart, widen the firefight, and sort of funnel Cowana into a tricky situation. Grizzly doesn't check left, and there it is. Kayak with the double. G2 with the lockout. Go back to the first meme folder, G2 socials. You're able to post the win ones today, and they're able to take the full 3 points.
I said it at the start of the round. They cannot go for a freezer take again. It took them too much. It make them struggle too much. They just need to find an R-kick, and they need to find the one into code check. They did. It got very close in the end. Let's just put it up like that, because the Yoko drone, if it was a little bit quicker, could have stopped that plan potentially twice. Could have been the round win and the overtime situation for Cowana. But nonetheless, G2 take the win here. Take the full 3 points that are, well, very much needed.
And that's it. It's in a day of upsets, in a day of the top slightly tumbling and the bottom starting to rise. They're able to claw themselves some points, able to find themselves closer and closer to the top and some solidity. But that is down for our wonderful people at the desk to break it down. Take it away.
Thank you so much.